You know, when we look at our beloved Savannah, Georgia, and its squares, seems like they all got the memo because it seems like most of them were named after men, good and not so good. And today's square is no different. We're going to be discussing, exploring Madison Square. Not Madison Square Garden, Madison Square. So, let's get on with it. So, Madison Square is located on Bull Street, and it is supposed to be the most impressive of the squares. It was laid out in 1837 and named for President James Madison. Now, here's a fact that none of us should be shocked at. This square was haunted prior to its birth. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, should we be surprised? But the reason it was pre haunted, especially, was due to the Battle of Savannah, where many soldiers fell to their deaths. It's rumored that there was a mass grave for these poor soldiers. And here's this worst part, okay, guys? It's even been said that some were even mortally wounded when they were thrown into this terrible mass grave. Imagine being a poor, mortally wounded soldier, and now you're being thrown in with your already dead comrades. Whew. This makes me wonder what kind of vibe these spirits give off, and can we blame them if they're not so nice, right? Now, I don't know if this is more positive, but it's better than death, I guess. William Jasper, a Battle of Savannah hero, has been immortalized with a monument in the middle of the square. So, this square, I mean, it saw its not so nice stuff. And I can't say that I'm surprised that there would be a mass grave. For anybody who watches Bones, I feel like our lovely Temperance Brennan, or Bones, would be thrilled to examine these skulls if she really truly existed. Or maybe there's someone just like her. I don't know. But that is the history of just why it's pre haunted. They didn't have to haunt it themselves, did they? Is it William Jasper or some other unknown member of that terrible mass grave that takes delight in dancing in and out of the light of the street lamps with his own shadowy figure? Maybe, perhaps, someone someday soon could take a seat and find out. And then come and pour the tea for your favorite Teabelle, obviously, because everybody would love to know. And maybe we could get some names. I don't know. What do we think, Buttercups? So there is a house, the Sorrel Wheat House, that was built on the square, and it has quite the history. It was built between 1835 and 1840. It was actually commissioned and built for Francis Sorrel. Okay. This was designed with Greek Revival and Regency architectural styles, and it boasts over 16,000 square feet. That would be probably 10 plus of the house I'm in, which is 1,200 square feet. That's a huge house. I would take it. Haunted or not, I'll be honest. I'll make friends with the ghosts. What is that mortgage? Anyways, like most homes built in the 1800s, the design also included a carriage house. The main house has 3 above ground levels as well as a basement. Dun dun dun. A notable part of Kluski's design was his intent to connect all spaces on the main floor to exterior shaded verandas. A courtyard separates the main house from the carriage house, which housed the resident slaves at the time. It is often likened to William James Owen's Thomas House and Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. Jay and Kluski both made use of dividing foyer spaces with 2 columns, a similarity that is notable between several historic homes in Savannah. It's not, I can't say I'm surprised. Not at all. This home was the residence for the Sorrel family. Francis Sorrel was a wealthy plantation owner, and his early life didn't begin great, though. He began his early life in what is now Haiti, where he experienced the turmoil of the Haitian Revolution and was saved by an enslaved person during an attack. He eventually began a successful career as a shipping merchant in Savannah, and he imported goods and participated in the slave trade. And besides the slave trade, he did ship butter, salt, molasses, cotton, things of those nature. And then he married Lucinda Moxley. And he had dealt with her family and business for a while, but unfortunately, she died within 5 years of them being married. Now, here's kind of where it gets a little ew, because he remarried her younger sister, Matilda. I mean, he was such a classy man, right? But I suppose back in those days, maybe that's what they did. I guess we can't shame him too much for that. And though they had a good marriage, Francis wasn't the best husband. Now, I'm sure he was known for other dalliances, but he was having an affair with a slave named Molly. Now, he went as far as giving her a private room so he could continue his affair privately, but that still wasn't enough. It is said that Matilda chose to end her time on Earth due to discovering the affair that he was having with Molly, and she jumped off the second floor balcony. Now, here's the thing: I don't need to describe what it possibly looked like. We just know it couldn't be good. But here's where it gets messed up, and this is where men suck sometimes. Not all men, just saying this man especially. Sadly, Molly was also found deceased of her own choice due to the guilt. And besides the fact that the her guilt, she knew she would be liable, and it sucks because both women were very much innocent parties because they couldn't say no, could they? Not without consequences. But now Molly and Matilda still consider this home and haunt it to this day. Molly still is in her slave quarters, apparently. Now, it is a possibility that you'll experience the feeling of being watched. And possibly like you're feeling like you're being choked to death by a rope. Or you might feel drowsiness upon entering. And it could be that you're just experiencing the same feelings that poor Molly and Matilda were, unfortunately, and they don't know how to else to express it, right? Now, there is also a dark energy reported by visitors. That could be due to the dead soldiers buried under the home from the siege of Savannah. Like we said, this place was pre-haunted. They did not have to haunt it themselves. The battle was vicious, where American and French forces tried to push the British out of Savannah. They were outmanned and outgunned, and bodies piled up quickly. And so this is when they had to dig a mass grave / trench to bury their dead. Unfortunately, hundreds of men perished within weeks. And they couldn't distinguish who was injured and who was dead. So they were kind of all thrown in, unfortunately, which, if you think about it, you know where that leads. And then 50 years later, they built Madison Square and consequently this house. So this house was pre-haunted. So this is where they think that the dark energy can come from, because do you blame anybody if they are the soldiers? Just saying. Now, back to more recent things. In the mid-20th century, it became one of the earliest homes to be restored by the Historic Savannah Foundation. It was their first public exhibit and one of their first homes made into a historic landmark by the state of Georgia. Now, again, more recent, I say more recent, like 90s, it has appeared in movies such as Forrest Gump and several ghost-themed TV shows. So, you can actually visit this home, though. Okay? You can go to sorrelweedhouse.com and reserve and set a reservation to go visit this house. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just say that if you do end up going to see this house, any stories you want to share, I would be glad to hear, because is it really as haunted as it says? Do we know any of the soldiers? Also, do Molly and Matilda have anything else to say? But that's just me, and I go down the rabbit hole. So, yeah, the Sorrel Weed House has its has its own little quirks, right? Now there is another house in the vicinity of Madison Square that is also haunted, and this is the Green Meldrum House. So there are two families associated with it, the Green family and the Meldrum family. And this house has a lot of history, including encounters with General Sherman, Susan Baker King Taylor, John S. Norris. It's one heck of a house. Okay, not that I dislike, and I put it above anybody else. I like all the houses, but it is definitely very cool. So we're gonna start with the Green family because I think this is just a good place to start, and they put Green first, so we'll go by alphabetical order. Charles Green was born in 1807 in Shropshire, England, and he migrated to Savannah in 1833 at 26. Now, this is where he secured a job as a clerk on Factor's Walk in the cotton trade. Now, he eventually partnered with Andrew Lowe Sr. and his son Andrew Lowe II. And Andrew Lowe II was the father-in-law to Juliet Gordon Lowe, who was the founder of Girl Scouts. ... So, he became very successful, and he married his first wife, Catherine Burroughs, in 1837, so 4 years later. They had three sons, Benjamin, Charles Jr., and Andrew Lowe. Unfortunately, Catherine died from tuberculosis in 1846, and by 1850, Charles was one of Savannah's richest cotton merchants. He also had a steamship company that transported cotton to Liverpool regularly. In that same year, 1850, he married his second wife, Lucy Hunton, from Greenwich, Virginia. Now, this is smart. I approve. The family did very good. As a part of his marriage contract, he promised to build her a grand home. Charles hired John Norris of New York City to design and build a 7,300 square feet home at the cost of $93,000 in 1850. Now, I did the math because I was like, that's a lot of money. And guys, if we're looking in 2025, he built this woman a $3,832,851.92 house. $3.83 million house. And it's like half the square foot of the Sorrel Weed house, but I've never been, so I don't know if it's better. I don't know. Someone tell me. So, Charles and Lucy took an extended honeymoon in England and Europe to shop for building materials and furnishings for this new house. And it was finished in 1853. Now you're going to say, man, they went to Europe on that extended. Yeah, that's probably why it was so expensive. Nearly half of the expenses were due to the cost of luxurious building materials brought over from England and other places. Now, I hate, this is where it kind of gets sad because Lucy only got to enjoy her house for 17 years. At 39, she left Charles with 7 children: Gilbert, Edward, Douglas, Anna, Lucy, Mary, and Frank Sorrel. Frank Sorrel. Anyways, at 62, Charles married his third and last wife, Aminta Elizabeth Fisher of Baltimore, MD. Okay, now I said he was 62. She was 34. And this is another theme that these men have. She was Lucy's younger cousin. Whew. Now, Minta brought into the marriage a fortune greater than Charles's. The two traveled frequently to Europe to purchase paintings and sculptures, and their only daughter, Aminta Minnie, nicknamed Minnie, died at age 6. And Aminta was obviously devastated by her daughter's death. So, after that, she spent the rest of her life working with various charities. So, Charles definitely was a man of time. Now, on July 1st, 1861, before all of that, L.P. Walker, Secretary of War for the Confederacy, appointed Mr. Green to work with Major C. Edward C. Anderson and Captain Hoose in London in the purchase of arms and munitions of war for this government, specifically 100,000 muskets for rifles. In Liverpool, the men secured a blockade running ship to deliver the military cargo they had purchased. And on November 12th, 1861, the SS Fingal arrived in Savannah, bringing in perhaps the most valuable military cargo to reach the Confederacy during the war. Now, this was according to Alexander Lawrence's book, A Present for Mr. Lincoln. Now, knowing that he had some part in this, Charles Green was, we know, a wealthy cotton merchant, sympathetic to the Southern cause. And for the first 2 years of the war, the English were also supportive of the Confederacy. The English spinning mills needed cotton, and it was being delivered from the South every day. In November of 1861, both Mr. Green and his partner, Andrew Lowe, were arrested by the U.S. government as they returned from a European business trip. Pinkerton detectives determined that the pair had made contracts on behalf of the Confederate government to arrange loans to purchase arms for the Southern forces. So basically, they caught him in his, support for the Confederacy. Both men were transported back to Fort Warren in Boston Harbor and imprisoned for 3 months. Eventually, Mr. Green was cleared of all charges, but he was probably forced to take an oath of neutrality, which, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Now, General Sherman served in the Union Army and was considered a modern war strategist. He led the March to the Sea, a massive scorched earth campaign that ended in the city of Savannah. While in Savannah, Sherman made his personal headquarters at the Green Meldrum House at the invitations of Charles Green. Now, here's a man, unfortunately, who knows that his loyalties have to be a little bit flexible for his life. And by doing this, he's going to show his, he's going to say, hey, Union, I'll help you out. And this, in turn, will keep the Union from destroying him. Now, do we think he might have been working for the Confederacy still? Probably. But do we have any proof? None at all. Just saying. Now, from 1864 to 1865, it was lived in by the Union Army officers. It was from this gorgeous place that General Sherman wrote his famous telegraph to President Lincoln. He wrote that he wanted to gift the president, quote, as a Christmas gift, the city of Savannah with 150 heavy guns and plenty of ammunition, and also about 25,000 bales of cotton. Charles later sued the United States government to be reimbursed for this cotton. Yep, I'm telling you, that man was business savvy. Now, while at the home Sherman entertained his officers, he wrote a telegram to President Lincoln and conducted a community meeting with local black leaders to discuss the fate of the freed slaves. Now, here's are some facts that we found for this. It was the site of the 40 acres and a mule meeting. That's where they're discussing the fate, where General Sherman stated that the newly freed enslaved people would have a fresh start. Quote, each family shall have a plot of not more than 40 acres of tillable ground. End quote. General Sherman and Secretary of War Edwin Stanton held this meeting with local black leaders at the Green Meldrum House. Sadly, this promise would be overturned by President Andrew Jackson, but this did show, initiative, and it was the first meeting that showed the first dialogue between the white power structure of Savannah and local black men. So we'll give it that. They tried. Now, Charles Green did own the house until he died in 1881. His son, Edward Green, was left the house, and Green sold the house to Judge Peter W. Meldrum in 1892 after his family was established in France. So, we were talking about Edward Green, which was one of the sons. So, Julian Green was a grandson, and he was born in France in 1900. He was the youngest of 8 kids, and his childhood was filled with stories from his mother about the South and the Civil War. And if you notice, many of these themes appeared in his writing as he embarked for a long and successful writing career. He is recognized as one of the giants of the 20th century French literature. He was the first non national member of the prestigious Académie Française. I don't know what that means. I'm pretty sure it just means it's an academic, a French academy thing. If you know, tell me. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Now, many of his Julian's experiences certainly contributed to his writing. He worked as an ambulance driver on the Italian front in World War One. In 1940, he left France for America and subsequently worked for the U.S. Office of War Information. For a year, he did radio broadcasts to the French 5 days a week as part of the Voice of America. And he died at age 98 in Paris. Whoa. So that means, okay, he was born in 1900. That means this man died in 1998. Can you guys imagine living in that century? Knowing what he did, knowing everything he heard, he literally lived through everything. That's kind of cool. I really wish that someone would have talked to him about how he felt about all the changes. But I mean, that's cool. Now that's for the green side of the house. Because remember, Julian's dad, Edward, sold it to the Meldrum family, Judge Peter Meldrum, if we recall correctly. Um, and so Judge Meldrum was born in Savannah in 1848. And at the time of Sherman's occupation, Peter, age 16, was serving in the Confederate Army. Dun dun dun. Now, after the war, he did earn his law degree from the University of Georgia. And not only did he serve as mayor of Savannah, but he was also elected as president of the American Bar Association in 1912. In addition, he was a brigadier general in the Georgia National Guard. Highly regarded by his contemporaries, he was a devoted husband and father. So I have to say that hopefully he was a better man in terms of being a husband. Frances Casey married Peter in 1881, and she was born near Augusta, Georgia at Waverly Hall Plantation. Now, she was noted for her beauty and gracious hospitality. She was also equally renowned for her civic contributions. She originated the idea of a centennial celebration in the city honoring the sailing of the SS Savannah. She also authored a booklet on early Savannah landmarks, a historic pilgrimage through Savannah in 1921. They had 5 kids, and that seems like just a normal thing, I guess. Caroline, Francis, Sophie, Jane, and Ralph. Unfortunately, Ralph died as a young man. Now, there was also someone, Sophie Meldrum Coy Shonard. That was one of the kids. And she was known for her beauty, style, and spirit. She attended many parties and dances and eventually caught the eye of Ted Coy, an All American fullback at Yale. They eloped to Asheville, North Carolina, to marry, and subsequently moved to New York. After 12 years of marriage, they divorced. Now, I'm just saying, knowing what you know about Savannah, I'm pretty sure that there was probably scandal that they eloped, especially far away, but that's just me. So, besides the scandal of eloping, besides the scandal of probably moving to the north, and now besides the scandal of being divorced, she had to support her kids, her 2 sons. So, Sophie and her friend opened a private custom dressmaking salon in New York City. They made authorized Chanel designs from Paris for society's most fashionable women. This included women like Doris Duke and Babe Cushing. Now, Jackie Kennedy, we know who she is, was their best customer. She had her own mannequin in the salon so her outfits could be fitted just right. So essentially, they made sure that she was done right. And I am absolutely certain this is no surprise. The pink Chanel designed a strawberry 2-piece suit worn by Mrs. Kennedy in Dallas when her hubby was assassinated came from Ches Ninian. The pink suit was never cleaned of its bloodstains and has been kept in an acid free container at the National Archives in Maryland since 1964. In 2003, Caroline Kennedy signed a deed of gift specifying that the dress not be displayed until 2103. So basically, it's I would say like to say it's evidence, but probably just hey, this is what happened. Now, in 1970, Sophie sold her shop and moved back to Savannah, where she was an active supporter of historic preservation. She died in 1980 at the age of 92. This is one of those times again where she lived to see that was 1898, you want to say? No, 1878, 1888 maybe. But the cool thing is she saw all these things and she met some wonderful historical figures. I mean, holy moly. Now, we talked about General Sherman already. And shortly after he arrived at the house, Mr. A.G. Brown, U.S. Treasury agent, called on Sherman and offered to carry a message to the president. He immediately penned his famous letter to the president stating, I beg to present you as a Christmas gift the city of Savannah with 150 guns and plenty of ammunition, and also about 25,000 bales of cotton. So I repeat that because Charles Green knew what he was doing back in those days when he knew that he had to be flexible. And General Sherman was doing what he had to do by President Lincoln. And that's, what you had to do then. And so that's just how it went then. General Sherman left Savannah February 1st of 1865, crossed the Savannah River, and resumed his destructive march through South Carolina and North Carolina. The fact that this house survived, guys, after all of that, tells you that Mr. Green, Charles Green, did what he needed to do. So there's that. And so there is also a woman named Susie Baker King Taylor, who was born in slavery on August 6, 1848, at the Grest Plantation in Liberty County, coastal Georgia. Her mom was a domestic servant, and at age 7, Susie moved to Savannah to live with her grandmother Dolly, who arranged for Susie to secretly attend school. She was smart, so by 1861 her knowledge had surpassed that of her teachers. And at age 14, she escaped slavery when her uncle led her to a federal gunboat patrolling the waters off of Port Pulaski. From there, she attached herself with the 1st South Carolina Infantry. This woman was brave, guys. She served for 3 years as a nurse in the regiment of former slaves, although she was officially enrolled as a laundress. She also taught children and adults to read and write. She is the only woman to write about her experience serving in the Civil War. This is the thing. That's a brave woman. I mean, she did it. In 1872, she went to work for Mrs. Charles Green. This is Aminta, the third and last wife, as a laundress. This is where she traveled with the Greens to Rye Branch for the summer and served as their cook. She even won a prize at the fair for her excellent cooking. Later, when Miss Green went to Europe, Susie went to Boston where she lived until 1912. She published her memoirs, My Life in Camp, 10 years before her death. This woman, guys, is super, super, super brave and gutsy. She did what she had to do to survive. And for that, wow, go girl. Now, we talked about John S. Norris. He was the one who designed the house. And so he was born in New York City, so he was a Yankee in 1804 and started his career as a mason, then a builder, and then eventually became an architect. In 1839, he went to Wilmington, North Carolina, where he designed several buildings, including the St. James Episcopal Church and the Wilmington Custom House. He moved to Savannah in 1846 after winning a design competition for the Custom House on Bay Street. By 1850, he had become Savannah's most important architect. Okay, guys, that's really cool. His commissions included the Andrew Lowe House on Lafayette Square in 1849, Massey Schoolhouse in 1855, Mercer Williams House in 1866. That's a good one. The Georgia Historic Society Library, the Chatham Artillery, and Cockspur Island Lighthouse. He is best known, though, for Green Meldrum House in 1853. The house is notable for its cast iron porch and oriel windows. The interior features ornate plaster around the doors and windows and a dome above the spiral staircase. Norris used his knowledge of various architectural styles and his building skills to create a diverse collection of magnificent buildings in Savannah. He is undoubtedly the most important architect in Savannah's history. So, what this tells us is that you didn't have to just go to school. You could get experience and learn through the job, but that he took his job very seriously. And it tells you that he was very self motivated. But if you notice that anybody we've talked about in this episode, they've all had to be self motivated and a little flexible just to say because they needed to survive. And that's what they did. So, a theme that I was recognizing through all this was that besides the fact that there were good and bad men and these squares were named after them, there were also good people who were smart enough to know that they had to be a little bit flexible and they survived the worst of the worst that they had to endure. So, on my parting thoughts today, let us all be survivors. Because the fact of the matter is, that is the ultimate goal of the day. So, my lovely buttercups, I cannot wait to see you next week. I hope you have a spectacular spooky week, and I appreciate each and every one of you staying as you and I experience the growing pains. Bye.